So I feel like I was rushing. I definitely feel like I was rushing the last part of that video when I finally got to my point. Sometimes it takes me a minute to get there. And I wanted to think about it for a second because I think it's really important, for a lot of people to recognize this. Not everybody, but some people, especially when you're early in your awakening, and there's a lot of shit going on. Like for me, I see stuff all the time. I always knew stuff. And because I was gaslit my whole fucking life, I never trusted my intuition, and that's what got me caught up. And I would always be reaching outside of me, outside to groups or to people or to friends or back in the day, substances, to fill those voids in my life. And I came to a point, especially a huge reawakening, a couple years ago. And what was interesting is that my mother introduced me to this person. It took me to it was like a healing drum circle for like survivors of cancer, if you lost someone of cancer. And what was interesting, the hospital that hosted it, my ex-boyfriend, happened to be working at. I didn't put all these pieces together until these last couple years, but he worked there. My mom took me and introduced me to what would then become a year later or so, a couple months later, my teacher. I was a student of shamanism. I studied it for a few years. And so there's all kinds of, and that shaman actually was friends with my sister on Facebook. And I remember asking her about it, and she denied it. And I'm like, you're friends with them on Facebook. And then she tried to gaslight me. But anyway, this last group of people I was really clinging on to because I never felt part of a family. I never felt part of a group. I was the black sheep my whole life. I was always the problem because I always saw everything. And I fed into those stereotypes and the narrative about me because I also thought those things about myself, even though deep down I knew what I knew, right? But I wasn't trusting my intuition. And because of all the unhealed trauma that I had, I just kind of allowed things to happen in my life instead of being proactive and being the driver, right? That's why I always talk about being your driver in your own life, because I allowed too many people to dictate my life, my family, friends, associates, jobs, employees, all of that. And so because I became very close and I was a student, I was doing tree meditations and all kinds of meditations, and I was instructed by my teacher to email, and I still have all the email these deep meditations with another student of this person who she had been studying under him a lot, and she would call me her shaman sister all the time. Talk about evil. But anyway, and she's in the same field as me, which is very disheartening, to be honest with you, because I see right through it. So I emailed these very personal, and when I signed up for this contract that I didn't know I was signing at the time, let's just say that, I was talking about sometimes you don't realize what you're agreeing to people. Now looking back, I see how words were used as spells on me to these contracts that I shouldn't have been a part of. But they used all of that information against me. That's how they used the information to attack me. And it took me some time to realize it. Like, I would literally, and there's a lot of people who knew me when this was going on. I would, even though I was going through stuff, I was generally happy and generally loved life. But I would wake up in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning. Hold on, there's people coming. Okay, sorry about that. I would literally wake up the next day or in the middle of the night and have a knife in my hand wanting to cut myself. And I would hear, because I was already connected to spirit, I would hear the voices weren't mine. Kill yourself. You're nothing. You ain't shit. Like, it wasn't my voice. Like, I could tell. You could tell the difference. And I was like, I don't want to die. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could feel this. And so I knew spell work was being done. Spell work was placed around my house. I mean, and I have tons of videos actually out in these woods, many places where I've been by Ra, my number one tree, ancestor tree, actually in here, people following me. So for like a year or two, and it still happens, but now I know how to combat it. Following me and try to harm me while I'm in the woods, trying to get me fearful of not leaving my house, doing all these spells on me, right? And I noticed when I finally was able to ground myself, right? Asking spirit, What exactly are they trying to attack? And Spirit kept showing me they're trying to attack everything you haven't healed yet, a version of you that no longer exists at this point. And so that's when I started healing my abandonment wounds. That's when I started to heal my isolation wounds and realize that, you know, what this female that was my shaman sister did to me was the same thing my mother did to me when she was angry, which would be to ignore me and try to energetically push me aside. And that's what people who manipulate people do. They use as a form of punishment. They try to silence you or ignore you as a form of punishment, which is very, very toxic to do. And I communicated all this stuff. But once I realized that my teacher was then trying to triangulate everybody in the group, and had been triangulating women in the community for a while, and there was all kinds of other things, and I gave this teacher asked me for a reading one time, and I gave him a reading, and it was not a good reading. But I was honest with it. And so I am a true seer, and I see everything that they've done to people in their family and in the community. And so I knew I had a target on my back, just like I always have a target when I work at agencies and I uncover Medicaid fraud, or I uncover that they're locking clients in cages. Like, leave it up to me. But what this individual's done is 10 times worse, and the people that have supported him 10 times worse as well. But that's neither here nor there. My whole point of this is that when people know certain things about you, they will attack those things specifically. And so I had to heal those. And so instead of looking at isolation as nobody loves me, I was learning, how do I fucking love myself? I'm going to go ahead and be isolated, because you know what? All my life, I've always given to everybody else, overextended myself, always wanted to make sure everybody was happy, everybody was content. You know, I mean, that was my own people pleaser, you know, like, and then would internalize it when things didn't go the way other people want them to go. I would internalize that something was wrong with me. And so this time I used the isolation to getting to know who Anne-Marie truly was, getting out, talking to trees, not being afraid that when I put my hands on a fucking tree, I get downloads, I get knowledge. And I started doing TikToks, and I started meeting people just like me, or people who were talking about stuff that I was going through. And you, my friends, you were the light for me in the very dark place for these last couple years. And you know who you are. And I'm grateful, even up until this point. And so I had to heal those wounds. And so anytime I can feel, that's why attacks don't really bother me as much anymore. It's because I can see now and feel exactly who it's coming from. And all they know are old narratives about you. Just like when I tell people, you know what? If you want to believe what so-and-so said about me, I really don't give a fuck. I am not here. Oh, there goes another one. This is a magical day. I refuse to use my energy to defend who I am, or to, you know, get into arguments with people, or, you know, oh no, I would never do that. You know, these people said I did a lot of horrible things that I would never do. Hold on. And I had to learn to be okay with people being wrong about me, because I've experienced it my whole life, my family, friend groups. And that's why it's important to recognize when you start to heal and grow and evolve. It's been said thousands of times, and so I'll just be another person to say it. Most of the people can't go with you on this journey, because it's not as there's anything wrong with them. It's just a lot of times people only see us through their lens from an old version of ourselves that we no longer are. And so oftentimes they'll try to pull us back to that. And that's why a lot of times we feel like there's this push-pull of going back to old patterns, old people, old places, old behaviors. And we wonder why it's so intense, because we're trying to take weight with us that needs to be let go, and for them to do their own journey. And so that was very challenging, because that also included my family. That included friends. That included a lot of people who didn't fucking honor me and see me for who I was. And this is why a lot of of course I do the readings, but my readings are healing readings. I am and awareness readings as well. But a lot of my videos talk about finding whatever your magic is within you to heal, so you can't be so you don't succumb to these attacks. And it's always by the people you would least expect it, or maybe you do expect it, you just don't trust your intuition. So may this message reaches who it needs to reach. I appreciate the space. It's such a beautiful, glorious day today. I hope you're healthy and happy and full of joy. May you love and be loved. Heal. Don't harm. Have a great day.